All right, and we're live.
Welcome back to Pokemon USA. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, and let us know what you think. Also, if you don't know, we have a wholesale program for Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Flesh and Blood, and many more games. The link is in the description below. And what else is there?
Discord. Tell them about the Discord.
Oh, the Discord, the Pokemon USA Discord. There's a free one, and then you can also get access to the wholesale chat if you join the program, where all the secrets are talked about inside of there.
Oh man, all the secrets. That's crazy. There you go, dude. Well, thank you, Alex, for that introduction. Love the enthusiasm.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you guys are having a good Tuesday. We're gonna have a lot of things that we're gonna discuss. So any sort of topic you want to talk about today, Alex, before we kind of get into the main topic for today?
Oh man, I don't know. There's just so much going on right now, in the middle of summer.
We should almost just literally say that's basically the main topic.
That's it, man. I don't really have anything on the top of my head. What about you?
Well, I guess I feel like the first mini topic that we'll discuss before we kind of just get into things is, this is our first stream since Twilight's officially been released, and we get to see the full picture. And so far, the set has been performing, in my opinion, right, much better than I anticipated. I know it was something that we discussed last week, that we heard the pull rates were on the little bit of a harder side to get certain cards, but I don't know if I was exactly anticipating the Greninja to go for 185. The Carmine being above 100, that is less surprising to me. But yeah, I don't know. The Greninja being at that price point feels kind of crazy to me. You saw a massive buyout for that card, I want to say a couple days ago, which had the price run up. So I want to kind of get your take on what you think this is all about, if it's more than just, hard to pull, or what that might look like.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that are just looking for plays right now. And, the newest set, there's always room for plays. I mean, the Eevee ran up pretty good right after release, and now, Greninja's the flavor of the week. I do think, now obviously there's going to be a lot of things that happen in the meantime. That card's going to, it's going to spike up, spike down. We're going to have probably a reprint at some point. There's going to be a whole slew of things that happens in the next couple of years. But that, I will say, that card is extremely hard to hit. I've still not pulled it. I'm almost 6 cases in or something. Very hard to pull. And I do think it will be an expensive card in the future. We see what a lot of the top hit alt arts are going for. They're all in that $200, $300, $400, $500 range. So I do think it will be a $185 card one day. I do think it's probably worth that. It's just way too early. I mean, you're definitely going to see a lower entry point.
So you said that you've opened about 6 cases roughly now. What have you pulled from those 6 cases SIR wise?
I can tell you what I haven't pulled. I haven't pulled the Greninja. I haven't pulled the Blood Moon Ursaluna, and I haven't pulled the Lana, I believe.
Okay. So it sounds like you've pulled a good amount of SIR. How many SIRs do you get about every case, would you say?
I think it's 2, and if you're lucky, 3, but I think 2.
That's honestly not that bad if we're going off of what previous pull rates were for alternate arts. Because obviously alternate arts were roughly 1 in every 72, which is about 1 every 2 boosters. So this one kind of just makes it 1 in every, we'll say 2 to 3-ish, roughly, like you said. So, I mean, it's not too far off. I would say arguably just a little worse rates. But, I mean, what do you how do you feel about this in compared to the pull rates that we had for SV base set and Paldea Evolved?
I mean, that's what I'm trying to compare it to, is I think it's probably $100 card. 185, we're getting into the stratosphere at that point. It's way too early to be worth that much. I think it's just a supply thing, buyout thing type thing. But yeah, I mean, when you look at some of those other sets, we look at Paldea, and we look at Iono still going for whatever it's going for, 70s, 80s, whatever. Those cards are extremely easier to pull than Temporal or Twilight Masquerade. And so seeing those Temporal, Twilight Masquerade top hit SIRs in that higher, 80s, 90s, 100 plus, that doesn't surprise me, right? I think it's realistic. I honestly think it's a realistic price point due to how hard they are to pull.
Interesting.
But now 185, obviously, it's too high. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it definitely feels a little bit too high. Where do you think the Carmine should be is the real question.
I think they'll all settle in the, like I said, the upper, $100, $80 to $120. I think those cards will settle.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, if
Yeah.
we look at the sealed product pricing, at least for the booster, it's been sitting steady at 105. It hasn't really gone up, hasn't really gone down or wavered. It's just been at 105 the entire time.
It's very, I mean, honestly, such a healthy market. Like everything, Paldea is the only set in the entire era that's kind of running away, you could say. But I mean, everything's just healthy. Like being able to buy booster boxes for $100, $105, $110, I feel like it's where we should be.
Yeah. If only the price of wholesale was cheaper. That would definitely feel better if we were back into the low 80s. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good place because for people that were obviously afraid of like booster box prices going up, I mean, technically they have been quote unquote going up, but if you compare it to like, the Sword and Shield era where there was just constant run ups all the time on sealed product, it's definitely given people a lot more of an opportunity. Ultimately, I guess you have to ask yourself the question, are people squandering that opportunity? Because as with all things, if it's too cheap, it's a brick. If it's too expensive, I'll buy it when it's cheap.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like anyone that went through the Sword and Shield era like we did, it was not the healthiest of eras, right? Like I would argue Scarlet Violet's a much more healthy era, like market wise. I mean, you had reprints come that like crushed prices. Like look at, Chilling Reign Fusion Strike and Battle Styles got crushed for a long time. Shining Fates and Pokemon Go still crushed, right? Like Darkness Blaze and Vivid Voltage ETBs still have not recovered. And then you had like the early sets where they're not really good sets, but they were never reprinted. And so like the prices are too high on those. Like it was an all over the place era. And so I think Pokemon's doing a lot better job managing Scarlet Violet, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Okay. So here's an interesting question. And this is a little bit of a, we're playing the guessing game and we'll talk about this more obviously next week. But just based off of what we've seen right now from Night Wanderer, what's your thoughts gonna be on Shrouded? Like, I mean, just taking a first glance at it, how do you feel?
I honestly, dude, like I haven't looked at it really.
Really?
I'm one of those people. Like, here's the thing. That is one of my biggest pet peeves in this hobby, and I can get destroyed in the comment section. I think people need to live in the moment more. Like this hobby is so screwed up that like we literally just got Twilight Masquerade released like 2 weeks ago. And we're already looking, not just like at Shrouded Fable, we're already looking to the next set after that. It's just like, guys, can we just enjoy the cards for like a month or before we like looked? It's just, I don't know. It's wild to me that no one can ever enjoy the moment. We're always like looking for the future. Like the future is going to save us, right? Like, and eventually what's going to happen is we're literally going to be to SV12. We're going to be to the last set. People are still going to be like, oh, I can't wait till the next generation. It's like, wait a second. We've been hearing about these last 4, 5, 6 later SV sets for years now. Now we have them, and now people are going to be looking forward to something else. Like, I just think we should enjoy what we have a little bit longer.
See, I would typically agree with you, but also at the exact same time, it's kind of tough for people not to like it's hard for people to turn a blind eye because if you look at the way in which information is consumed, like there's such an instant gratification culture that we live in society where people want things now. I mean, just look at the news cycle. Like you'll have crazy things happen in the news that will last for like a week or two, and then it's just on to the next thing, right? And so I feel like when it comes to a new set release, like Twilight Masquerade is one, obviously people have recently started to hype up more. But before people even have a chance to dive into it, they announced 6.5, right? So it's one of these things where if there wasn't any news of Shrouded, it wouldn't be, oh, well, I'm skipping Twilight and like moving on to 6.5. You would have some people like that for sure, because there was a lot of speculation around a dragon set, but it would not be as big of an issue as it is currently because Pokemon is kind of feeding into that. I mean, I would argue almost that it's like one of these things where they're almost doing it too early when it comes to the announcement of these new sets. Like Twilight should come out, give it a couple of weeks after the sets kind of like started to lose its hype, and then pick up right back from there and make the announcement. Don't make the announcement literally a week before the new set release. And then people now have to question themselves, do they want to take what they have right now with Twilight and put money into it, or save up for a new specialty set that's going to come out literally a month and a half from now?
Yeah, I mean, you get the orders. Like anyone in the program can see what I ordered. Like I ordered 10 cases of it. So
Yeah.
that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, here's my thing with it. First and foremost, we'll get more information probably tomorrow. I'd be surprised if we had to wait till Thursday. But if you guys don't know, the Japanese set comes out on the 7th. So we're going to get some news for Night Wanderers really, really soon. I mean, we've already seen the Kingdra and the Greninja when it comes to the promo card, and those look amazing. I don't think it's something that Pokemon would just all of a sudden say, hey, we're going to take the best like Pokemon SIRs and we're going to make them promos. That doesn't seem likely. So there has to be some other good ones. I know today they teased the Cassiopeia alternate art or SIR for Night Wanderers, and that one looks kind of cool. She has her Sylveon in the background of the trainer card. So I mean, that's a card that's probably going to do popular or be popular. But ultimately, there's still so much that has to be revealed. Not to mention, this set seems like it's going to be like a smaller size set, kind of like what we had with Champion's Path back in the Sword and Shield era. So there's still so many questions that obviously are to speculate upon. But just first impression, at least if we're going off of what we've seen with the specialty boxes, I am at least getting excited for this set in the assumption it's going to potentially be a solid one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why English has to do that. Like, 151, they did it with the Mew and the Mewtwo, and now they're doing it with the Kingdra and the Greninja. I mean, it's just like you just put out a Greninja top hit in Twilight Masquerade, and then you're going to make a super awesome Greninja special illustration promo. It just, I don't know, man. Pokemon's, huge company and they know what they're doing. I question it sometimes, but here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. So someone said SV7 is going to be the Paradise Dragon set. Yeah. I mean, we know there's going to be a dragon set based off of the trademarks. We know what's going to happen. So everyone's just waiting for that dragon set at this point. But going back to Alex's point that he kind of made up, that's the problem, is people are always waiting for the next, right? And ultimately, I can understand that sentiment because of how the first half of Scarlet and Violet has been, but we're right around the cusp of it being the point in which we're going to start to get these incredible sets. Because you have to think that most of these transitional shifts happen after Worlds, which is coming up here in the next couple of months. So the sets that will come up after Worlds are going to be some crazy, crazy sets, more than likely, right?
But it doesn't matter, right? Like it's Groundhog's Day in this hobby, dude. Like they'll release the next Evolving Skies, and people will come up with reasons why it's not as good. They'll come up with reasons why not to wait, why not to buy it. I'm going to wait. It'll get reprinted. They'll come up with reasons why this is different this time. There's too much supply, or it's just like it's the same rhetoric over and over, and everything rises over time. Some do better than others, but it's just like there's two things there for sure. Everyone's always going to look to the future for something better, and everyone's always going to complain in the present that things aren't as good as they should be.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I mean, Evolving pre-sold for 115. So, I mean, it was a set that was relatively cheap, all things considered, when you think back on how amazing of a set it is. So, I mean, I would agree. But I guess I'm just trying to give some semblance of hope to the realists of the situation and basically saying like, hey man, I would not have that mentality relatively soon here. You can maybe have that mentality for the first half of Scarlet and Violet, but things are going to be start cooking. And I mean, just think about it, right? If you said to yourself back in Sword and Shield era, right? Oh, I'm going to save money and pass on Chilling. I'm going to save money, pass on Fusion. I'm going to save money, pass on Brilliant. I'm going to save money, pass on Evolving. Like if you said that to any of those sets, like, sure, you could say, oh, I think Evolving's the best. I'm going to dump all my money into Evolving from like a quote unquote investment perspective. But like realistically, you were never wrong by picking any of those sets. All of those sets are performing extremely well right now, right? And so
go back to Sun and Moon, right? You got, I
Huh?
mean, go back to Sun and Moon. You have Ultra Prism. You have
Yeah.
Celestial Storm. Like these are sets that are released right now, like 6th, 7th, 8th. Like that's where we're at.
Yeah, they're not the tag team sets, but they're still the back half of the sets before the transition into the next thing that Pokemon's going to be doing.
And
So,
other than team up, like Cosmic's ahead, but like Celestial Storm starting to compete with Cosmic. I think Ultra Prism's doing better than Unbroken Bonds. Like, I mean, like it's not always just because it's the oldest set or just because it has certain cards that they're always going to be the best performers. I just think, I don't know. I think when Scarlet Violet ends and everything kind of finds its footing in the next couple of years, I think that's going to really help the next era because people will finally kind of get all that out of their head because everyone is just like enamored with what Sword and Shield did. And so everyone's just waiting for those last 4 sets or last 6 sets. And that's where all the money's going to be. But I think if like Paldea or Temporal and these sets can hold up and do well, I think that'll kind of squash that a little bit.
yeah, I agree. Do you think so kind of feeling that same sentiment? We've had this conversation before in the past. But obviously prices have gone up a little bit for it, but Vivid Voltage, Darkness Ablaze. Vivid's about to push 150 and Darkness is at 157, so they're moving.
I sold at what I had of it.
Wow.
Didn't make much money, but didn't lose any money. It's just like you get to that point where it's like, you know, I feel like this is going to do better somewhere else type thing. It's not saying those boxes aren't going to be like $200 plus boxes, but it's like what's going to happen in the meantime that other things are going to do. And that's kind of what I did with my money.
I mean, it's at least moving, right? I mean, back, I want to say about at the start of May, Darkness was around 135. So it's gone up $20. I mean, it's not like it's not moving, obviously. So,
yeah.
Yeah, that's that kind of back half set, if you will, I guess. Right before we get into battle styles, those are kind of the last 2. So, but I don't know. I'm obviously not a big fan of those sets in the context of like, oh my god, I love Darkness. It has so many amazing pulls. But like by that same logic, it's hard for me not to still look at those sets and say, man, if these items are 130, what happens when all of the alternate art sets go to 250 and then all of a sudden this is just sitting there super cheap, kind of like with battle styles and what that's been doing. Obviously it's kind of gone stagnant a little bit, but it took a little bit of increase. Dude, I mean, okay, so speaking of battle styles, I mean, we've been watching alternate art prices go up, but do you see what the T-Tar is at right now? It's crazy to me.
I'm auctioning my PSA 10 as we speak.
Yeah. There you go, man. I mean,
yeah, I have noticed that. I mean, here's the cool part about Scarlet Violet too, is as much as hate as it gets, it's, I mean, I hate to use the word objectively, but it's objectively the first 4 sets are stronger than the first 4 Sword and Shield sets. Like there's more cards to chase. Like, and you can argue about like, well, is it better chase? Like Vivid Voltage is a Pikachu. Nothing's more popular than Pikachu. It's like, okay, but like these other sets have like 5, 8 cards people want in them. Whereas like Darkness Ablaze and Vivid Voltage have like 1, 2 cards each. It's really hard. It's a really hard sell to open those because it's like, all or nothing, boom or bust. Whereas like at least Scarlet and Violet sets, you have, a good amount of chase that people are looking for in each set.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just 175. Like it feels right because for the longest time I did believe the T-Tar was undervalued. It's just funny to witness it just go up so rapidly, right? Isn't this like slow progression of like, oh, it's at 130 now. It's like, no, it's at 180. Like it's at 175. It's moving. Like it's gonna hit.
I mean, it's worth it. Like here's why I still don't understand this to this day. Like I understand the concept behind it. Like why some of these other card games like One Piece and Lorcana and like some of the other games that have these like god tier rarities where they have these $1,000 plus cards. Like I understand there's less of it. Maybe some of them are hard to hit, but when it comes to Pokemon, it still blows my mind this stuff is this cheap. And that's crazy hearing that. Like, what do you mean this cheap? Dude, that's cheap. A card that takes you cases of 100 and something or 200 and something dollar boxes to hit, and it's only going for $100 or $200. That seems like so cheap to me for some reason.
I mean, I understand that logic, right? You say that alternate art odds are 1 in 72 for Sword and Shield era, right? Roughly. And you look at the price of
Well, that's of alt art. So like the odds of a specific alt art
Well,
are like
I was gonna get into
500.
that. I know,
Yeah.
I was gonna get into that. Because what I was gonna say was, you look at the price of the Moonbryon, right? And you say, all right, in a PSA 10, that card's going for what, 1,500, 1,600 bucks? And so
It's
you
down to
say to
like
yourself,
14 now. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
14 now, so we'll say 14, right? And so you say to yourself, all right, I opened 2 booster boxes of Evolving Skies, 700. You basically have to pull that Moonbryon within those 2 boxes, and you also have to hit a 10 graded condition just for it to logistically make sense. I mean, obviously you're going to have other cards you could pull within that, but like kind of, follow me here on this one. It's one of these things where like, when you put it down into that understanding, it does feel like it's an undervalued card, because ultimately you're not going to pull that into just 2 boxes. Like statistically, your probability is extremely low. You could get really lucky. You could pull it in 1 box. You can pull it in 1 pack. You can pull it in 2 boxes, whatever, right? But odds are it's going to take you multiple cases to pull that card. So the fact of the matter of like asking yourself the question, would you rather spend and no one's opening evolving for that same instance, but if you're looking at ratios, right, of like the value of the sealed versus the value of the singles, like I get what you're saying with that.
Another thing I really hate is when you're talking about pull rates, right?
Yeah,
These are all like mass openers to put those out, correct?
Typically, yeah, TCG players usually one of the first to pull out
So
off of like a 5,000 pack sample.
because like when you look over the box, right? There's no mention of pull rates. Which you go to sports cards, you go to other TCGs, they list exactly what the pull rates are of cards. I don't know if that's like I don't know Pokemon's reasoning for that. I mean, I think that's a mistake to not allow people to know what the odds are of pulling each specific card.
I don't know.
You're basically relying on third parties to open a bunch of them and then give you what they pulled, but it's not it still might not be the real pull rate. I don't know. It just
But I
seems
feel like the same could be said about premiums on booster boxes, because the Pokemon Company never came out and said that within the first 36 packs you're guaranteed to get a hyper rare or better. I mean,
no, but you buy a sports box that says like these are 1 in 10, 1 in 32, 1 in 100, and whatever. Like you kind of know what your chances are of how many packs. Like it's not guaranteed, but even like those stupid mystery power boxes would give you a certain amount of odds to get a vintage pack or whatever. It's just kind of weird they don't put odds on their boxes.
I would agree with that. Yeah, no, it is weird that they don't do that. I have literally no explanation as to why they don't do that. They should. But so we should probably talk about this now, Alex, just because you think it's worthwhile explaining to people. So if you haven't already, first and foremost, make sure for those people that joined in late, leave a like, comment down below, subscribe. Really does help the algorithm. And then we're going to take a second here today because Alex actually messaged me about this and said he had some people that had some further questions about the wholesale program, because it sounds like there's a little bit of confusion. So
hold on. And for anyone in the chat that's in my Discord, if you guys, anyone that could timestamp this and like share it in there, because a lot of people had questions, so that way they can go directly to this part. So go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, timestamp where we are for sure. So when it comes to the wholesale program, this is something that I want to kind of clarify up. Obviously, I give the brief summary of like Pokemon Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh! Flesh and Blood, so much more, right? This is a program that, although this is, a Pokemon centered, YouTube channel or YouTube group with Alex and I, it's something that is ultimately going to be a program that is for just making money in general, right? If you're someone that wants to have a side hustle or wants to have like kind of like a side hobby business to be able to make money off of TCGs, that is the entire sole purpose of the program. You literally get access to my distributors list and all the card games that they give me access to. And then from there, you can just buy as much as you want or as much as is available, right? So it's not one of these things where you come in and you're like only able to buy X amount of boosters from Pokemon or X amount of a certain set. Like if it's available, you can put in orders for as much as you want. Now, obviously for allocated items, there is a limitation based on your overall spend in the program, because it does go to ranking of who spends the most, because we want to prioritize people in the same way that distro does to us, right? Because distro is going to give us allocations based off of how much we spend with them. But practically outside of that, if it's one of these things where there's like open order items, you can order as much of it as you want. And the cool thing about the program that I would say that makes it the most valuable is we have a really good, I know Alex kind of joked about it, but we do have like a hidden community of people within the program that basically will discuss all the different plays that you can make outside of Pokemon. I mean, we have a full-on Yu-Gi-Oh channel. We've got a Magic channel where people that know nothing about Yu-Gi-Oh, that know nothing about Magic, but can just do general EV calculations, will like share it in the chat and then tell people like, hey, here's a good pickup. Here's how much you can make off of this item. Here's how you make that money off of that item. So it's something where everyone always kind of gets into the mindset all the time of like, oh, it's just Pokemon, like that's it. Or, oh, things have been slow with Pokemon because there hasn't been like reprints or blah, blah, blah. There's always going to be opportunities and plays in all different TCGs. And, you know, sometimes it's going to be more prevalent in Pokemon and sometimes it's going to be more prevalent in other TCGs. Or sometimes, you know, you want to focus on Pokemon and you can find those plays. You're just going to have to obviously do a little bit more research, hyper focusing on one TCG. But, you know, the more moral or point that I'm trying to make with the wholesale program is it's a program that ultimately just gives you a full range of opportunity and capability to kind of customize how you want to go about running that kind of side hustle or getting access to that product at wholesale pricing. Because literally we just charge the cost of product plus whatever it costs to ship to you, and then the associated fees that distro passes on to us.
Yeah, and then I mean, guys, obviously this is Eli's business. Like, I have no affiliation with it, so I have no reason to try to sell anyone on it. But you know, we're in a time now where everything's like slower and the sets aren't as like, you know, flying off the shelves. So sure, like a TikTok coupon.com or some, you know, P Football Pete or some of those big sellers will blow it out on eBay, and you'll say, well, I can get it for the same price doing this. It's like right now you can, right? But there were times like with Evolving Skies when it came out, it was pre-releasing in like the, you know, higher hundreds, 110, 120. And the Paradise Dragon, like some of these newer sets that come out, if hype does return, you know, it's going to be nice to be able to get boxes in the, you know, high 80s when everyone on the market's selling them in the, you know, 110, 120, whatever range, if they come out really hot out of the gate. You know, Magic product does the same thing. Like, you know, certain collector boxes will basically be more right out of the gate than they were at wholesale. And so, yeah, like Eli said, you know, if you're just a person who's trying to like buy a box or a case of every set, and that's really your only, you know, kind of interaction with the hobby, no, it's probably not for you. But if you're trying to like, you know, make some plays, build your collection for free, get in on the cheap, get in early, you know, the specialty sets are usually really good, especially with like ETBs and UPC prices. There is a lot of benefits there. You just have to weigh it out for yourself.
I mean, we've had so many instances of plays within the program. Like we've had plays where people came in and bought Lost Origin Silver Tempest off of bundles for super cheap. There was Crown Zenith loose pack like plays that people did. There was buy one get one free plays of like broken down product that would give you a price pack per average of like $2.15 for like Sword and Shield era stuff. We've had plays for like Yu-Gi-Oh buy one get one stuff where people don't know about Yu-Gi-Oh, but they say buy one get one free, start asking questions, and then immediately start to do the math and say, hey, I can sell this here and make X amount of money with this. So like I can keep going on the multiple different plays that you can make, right? If you're one of those guys that's like, well, I just want to be in the program because I just want to buy a case of a booster box for a new set release. Obviously, then that's kind of not the point of the program and it's not going to fit for you, right? Your whole purpose of the program is not to just say, I'm going to go pre-order for a new set release and that's just it, right? You're trying to constantly find ways to make money because the program obviously does have an associated overhead fee, and it's a really low barrier for entry when you calculate some of the plays that you can potentially make. Because all it ultimately really takes is for one sweet play to come out or for one set that is extremely high demand that has insane margins, and then you just go in, make that play, and then you could recoup your cost of the program by like 6x over just one move. And then all of a sudden it's no longer a question of like, all right, I gotta make up the cost of the $95 a month. It's like, oh no, I just made up that cost in one play. And now I don't have to worry about basically any associated cost for the next 6 months. I basically now just get access to distributor prices for free for these next 6 months, right? So it's like you can't think so short-minded in that regard, because it's going to get you obviously, in a mental hold, and also understanding what the whole intention is behind this program to begin with, right? This is not a program for people that are just wanting to buy product and sit on it. This is a program for people that are wanting to move product consistently and constantly have liquidity. I mean,
one
Alex,
one that sticks out to me this year with Pokemon. I mean, there's a bunch of other products. Like I make some Yu-Gi-Oh plays, and there's obviously Magic plays, but in other card games too. Like what we got Lorcana now, and Flesh and Blood, and there's a lot of Star Wars. Star Wars can be a play, but yeah, with like 151, those UPCs were down in like the 70s, and that was when on the market they were selling for over $400 a case. I mean, so you make, I don't know, you buy out a good amount of cases of UPCs, you flip all of those, like there's all your dues for the year. And like, if you're just searching around, hanging out in the Discord, people like, find these plays and call them out. I mean, I feel like it takes very little work to really pay for itself.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, I was gonna mention that, or I was gonna have you mention that 151 UPC, because that one made me think of, and then also Crown Zenith. You got in on Crown Zenith ETBs right before the price went up as well. So, and it wasn't crazy. It's not like one of these plays where like, oh my God, I did all this research, did this amazing thing. You were just like, oh wait, which distro is carrying Crown Zenith ETBs for that price? Oh, I'm going to go buy that because they're the last distro that has it, and prices are probably going to go up soon. I mean, heck, a perfect example of that is sleeved blisters for Sword and Shield era product, right? You had people picking up cases of sleeved blisters of either Lost Origin or Silver Tempest. And I remember there was at one point people were picking up Lost Origin sleeved for like $340 a case, and after like shipping and fees was like $360-ish. And they were selling it on the secondary market for like $550, $600 on eBay. I think they're selling for way above that now. And so going in and picking up that play just off of one case, you're like, all right, cool. I just paid for 3 months of the program, like off of just picking up one case of like a sleeved item, right? Oh, I picked up a case of Crown Zenith ETBs, bought it for around 35, $37 a pop. And then now I'm selling it for 50, $60. Like all of a sudden you just paid for a month or two of the program off of picking up one case. So it's like, yeah, there's a lot that goes into it when it comes to like, explaining, but it's really easy. It's not that
Rudy just kind of talked about it in one of his recent videos about how he made the decision to like stop letting Patreons come back in. He like made you, if you left, you get blocked or banned or whatever. And the reason is because like people just come in for that one good play. And that's the problem with this whole thing, is just like you don't know when that set's going to come, but like when that set comes in any card game, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, when that set comes, it's like everywhere else in the market's going to be more expensive, and you're going to have like the inside track. Right now, it's like, oh yeah, Alex, I get that, Obsidian Flames got released, but I can find it everywhere for $90 a box. Like, yeah, I get it, but it's not always going to be the case. These markets shift.
Yeah, Alfred brings up a good example. Fusion Strike and Brilliant Star sleeve blisters. It wasn't one of these things where it was like, oh yeah, like you came in and you did this play last second right before they went out of, print off a distro page. Like, no, Fusion and Brilliant plays for like the sleeve sat for months and months. And it was something where it just felt crazy. Like, why is no one paying attention to this? Why is no one taking advantage of like the price point for this? So it was weird to see. Another one I can think of, this one actually sat for like a couple of weeks too. This was an insane one. Build and battles were buy one, get one free on one of our distros. And you could get Lost Origin for an EV average of $2 a pack. And then that wasn't including the bulk that you could also sell as well, with some of the promo cards ranging anywhere between like $1 to $3 a promo. So like you got so much insane additional value with that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's like, yeah, obviously we're trying to sell it, but at the same time, it sells itself. Like we're just giving examples of what people have done in the program. And so just understanding like, hey, this isn't just like a one-off thing. Like This is where the
Well,
value really comes
well,
from.
you're trying to sell it. I'm not getting a commission
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. Fair enough.
I'm just being honest. Like, look, yeah, like you said, if you're just trying to sit on a box or a case or a couple cases and you're not trying to do the flip game, it's not for you. Like, literally, don't sign up. But if you're out there like trying to like, you know, always find these sealed product deals, trying to flip sealed product, trying to do this, like, and you're like active, you're gonna do very well in a program like that. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. So I'm
But
looking right now. Last sold listing for a brilliant 144 pack case. It sold for 630. And right before it went off the distributor page, I think at its highest point, it ran up to 390. So like you at your worst were making roughly around like $150 after fees. So, and that was after it was sitting for a while at 340. And then it's like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, it's insane to see. But we just wanted to touch on that a little bit because that's something that I feel like we need a better explanation of. Alex had actually brought this up to me because he said there was a lot of people in his program, or I shouldn't say program, your Discord, that had questions for us. So we just want to make a general timestamp of it so that we can use this section to kind of like reference it back for people that were interested and still had a ton of questions about joining. And no, we do not do sales tax as this moment in time because we are not hitting Nexus thresholds to where it requires us to do sales tax. So if you do reside within the state of Arizona, that's different, obviously, because I have to collect sales tax for Arizona individuals, but you can easily get a resale license to get around that. And most of the people that we deal with aren't living in Arizona, right? Most of them are living in like California, Florida, New York, Oregon, Washington, all the other surrounding states of us. Texas is a good one, obviously. So, but if you have any questions, please feel free to message me through the Discord or message Alex, and then he can connect you with me and we can kind of help you get a little bit more information if there are any questions that you really have. But yeah, especially with, I mean, not to like, you know, because we don't know yet, but Dragon Set, if the Dragon Set is coming up, man, like my distro, my rep was telling me, I mean, he said that for booster boxes, if we wanted to order a ton of booster boxes, he said right now we could at least order 2,000 and we would get filled on them because of how much of spend we do in the program. So, and we ordered for Paldean Fates, we ordered 1,900 ETBs with them. And this time around we ordered, I think right now the program is at like 1,750, but I just over pre-ordered because there's always last second stragglers that are like, do you have any more? I sold out of mine right before the week of release. So I popped this up to 2,500. So we'll probably get filled for that. So like, you know, when these hot sets get hot and everyone starts to realize they're hot sets, it's like you want to have as much as you can get. So we don't know when that set is, obviously, right? Shrouded should hopefully be good, but we'll see. We'll see what ultimately ends up happening with that. But
I'm already looking forward to like the set past that and then past that one.
Yeah, right.
I'm looking for like SV9, dude. Like you guys
what are we
lit.
even talking about? Come on,
You guys
now,
are
dude.
dust.
Oh, so I'll bring it up too. We'll kind of move past this point. I feel like we've kind of talked about it for quite a bit. But so people, if you guys didn't know, I had my grand store opening for Phoenix Cards this weekend. So for those of you guys that stopped by, really appreciate it. We didn't do a ton of advertising because we wanted to make sure that we kind of got our footing before we got into the groove of opening the store. But for what it was, with doing very little advertising past like us posting about it on Twitter, and you know, I made like one post in like a Facebook group for the area that it's located in Ahwatukee. It did really well. So I am super excited to see like the prospect of where the storefront is going to go, considering we had 3 really solid days and we just opened up and did very little advertising. So if you guys are wondering where it is or what it's called Phoenix Cards. You can check it out on Google. It's in Ahwatukee over off of Chandler Boulevard. So if you want to see me, I'll be there like 4 or 5 days a week for now. And so I'll be there actually later today. Once we're done streaming, I'm going to head over to the shop. So, but yeah, no, I'm really excited to see like what it's going to be. And although we do sell like Magic and other stuff, who would have guessed it? Pokemon's our primary, and we have a lot of really cool Pokemon product that we sell there. And it's exciting, man. Like it's one of these weird things where like, you know, we've been prepping opening the shop for the past 3 months now. And now that it's finally open and it's finally like real, it's like, oh my gosh, like this is it. This is happening. Like here we are. So It's an exciting thing. So I want to thank first and foremost everyone that is in the wholesale program. I literally would not be able to do this without you guys, because a lot of that, actually that's a lie, not a lot of, all of the revenue that comes from that program is kind of what helped us start it, because ultimately the wholesale program grew so fast. We needed to have a location to be able to ship things from, because the store in Oregon was blowing up with too much inventory, because we're ordering so many pallets on a weekly basis. So getting a location here in Arizona, literally we couldn't have afforded it without you guys. And then of course with that, now allowing us to have a front area to actually have a physical location to sell to people is something that's huge. And I'm excited about, to say the least, to see what the progression is going to look like for the shop.
Cool.
So, but all right, cool. So let's talk about one more thing before we start going into questions, because we're at about the 40-minute point at this part. Before I kind of bring up a topic, is there anything in particular that's kind of off the top of your head that you feel like is worth discussing?
The only thing is I've been getting some kind of like a lot of messages about like Beckett grading cards lately. And the premiums are just like getting insane. I don't know why, but like some of these English cards lately, like someone today just sent me the Umbreon Trainer Gallery, right? From Brilliant Stars, the Umbreon VMAX in a Beckett Pristine, not even a black label. It ended at like $800.
For what card?
The Umbreon Trainer Gallery.
Really?
And like, there's been others people have sent me too. And it's like obviously black labels, but even Pristines are starting to get some crazy premium. So I don't know if Beckett's just gaining traction, if people are just looking for that next stage of like, scarcity over a PSA 10 or what's going on with that. But I mean, Beckett may be a play if you got some really minty cards and you think this is better than a PSA 10. Maybe it makes sense to start sending some cards to Beckett. I don't know.
So here's my kind of take on that. And this is just coming from my own anecdotal belief. I want to use Beckett more. I just get more fearful of using Beckett because PSA is just such it's just a larger market. That's literally it. Like, I want a reason to leave PSA, right? It's kind of like, this is going to sound like a weird example. It's kind of like Call of Duty. Like, when it comes to certain video games, you've got like these institutional games that people keep going back to because there's not really a competitor, but the competitors are usually not that good, right? And so it's just, I need that excuse to jump off, right? That's kind of how I feel about PSA. I've been using PSA because ultimately PSA has been one that has been around forever, and so that has the most validity to it. But
if you can see it, there it is.
Yeah. It's kind of blurry, but I can see it.
818, the pop's 31, but it's a pristine 10.
But yeah, no. So like, for me, it's one of these things where I look at it and I say, man, I want to kind of get off the ban. I want to get off of PSA. Whatever it kind of takes for me to get off of it is like, it's something I'd realistically like to do. It's just been hard for me to really pull that trigger because I know that the sales volume or the demand is not there right now for Beckett. As much as I would love it to, it's not there. I mean, there's some demand for like black label cards, right? People like their black labels, people like their pristines, but it's not the same. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's not as liquid is what I guess I'm trying to get at.
Another big one that I would say another thing to throw in the mix is I don't know if anyone follows her, but like you know who Pokey Nips is on Instagram?
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're referencing. She
kind of fell into the Opossum Bud, Cool Trainer Ryan, Pokey Rev, like I guess like Crossfire. But so I didn't know about her until then, and ever since then I just been kind of like checking up on what she's always been really big on those the play cards, the play promos.
Is Pokey Nips who I'm thinking of?
Probably.
Do you want to go into what Pokey Nips is popular for, or am I tripping?
What, like she does like all the I think she has like an OnlyFans where she like
okay. All right, I'm thinking of the right person.
Yeah, but like all her Instagrams are like really provocative, like but she's always been really high on those Pokemon play cards, like with little stamps on them that you get for the the card shops get them sent in, and you get so you'll probably be getting those now. But those have been absolutely crushing it as well. I mean, those things graded, they're very scarce, and those have been having some crazy premiums as well. So those play promo stamp ones, those are another big play right now.
Interesting.
Yeah. I know. I didn't mean to talk about her for that perspective, but like ever since
I didn't know what her name was, but when you said Pokey Nips, it immediately in my mind was like, checks out.
And I didn't know who she was like until that video that Opossum Bud made, and then like it, I guess she was like criticizing PokeRev's packs, and I tried to follow the story for a second.
Does she have a YouTube channel?
I don't really follow her. I clicked on her Instagram one time, and so now like sometimes her Instagram's posts get recommended on me.
I just know someone in the Discord like pinged it and was like, "Well, that's an interesting way to market Pokemon cards on eBay," and it was like, "Yo, okay, game."
But no, I mean, what she's saying is what she said is really legitimate. Like, those play cards are like, the scarcity of them, and I mean, there's demand for them. People are paying high dollars for that stamp.
That's crazy. That's crazy, man. I'm sorry. It's just so funny to me. Hey, if it sells, it sells, man. Waifu cards are a thing for a reason, right?
Look at Nizo. Alex pretending not to sub to her OnlyFans was hilarious. Alex, stop, brother. You're digging your hole deeper. Not subscribe to her OnlyFans.
You got caught red-handed, man.
Right?
I didn't know about this rabbit hole until you brought it up. I thought she was just posting pics of freaking Pokemon cards in between her chest. So,
and I don't know the whole story. I just know of like the stuff I read when like that the videos were starting to get made. So like I don't know the whole story going on behind it. But that was
videos that you're subscribed to, right? Those videos.
What?
No, I'm just kidding.
But no, like I saw a post one time and I dug into it. Like I started to dig into them and looked at the grading, look at the raw prices. I'm like, these
the raw prices. I see. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that's interesting. I actually will do a little bit more research though on Beckett now that you mentioned that, because that's something that might be worth into. Someone made a post that I thought was funny. Are we gonna see a black label? Sleepy P.
It does seem like even the pristines are outperforming the PSA pretty good. And so, a 9.5 you lose, but it seems like even a pristine you win. It's not just black label or bust. So
yeah. I
just wouldn't do high volume. So everyone out there, I wouldn't make Beckett your high volume grading, because like Eli said, they are less liquid. So like maybe just like the creme de la creme that you were going to send as PSA 10 candidates, maybe you can, take a few of those, send them to Beckett and try to hit that black label lottery. But I wouldn't be sending in like, 50 of us the same card, because, all the ones that don't hit, 10s or whatever, they're going to be hard to move.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, that's crazy. That's wild. Someone said that in the comments. As far as
wait, what?
Pokey Glory Hole. That's what someone said in the comments. That's so wild. I can't believe that. Okay, so first and foremost, I should probably mention this just because I don't want to skip it. Pokey Grindin', thank you so much for the $1.99. I greatly appreciate it. Thanks for the congrats on the opening. Yeah, I'm really excited, man, to see where the store is. Any of you guys in the Ahwatukee, Phoenix, area, let me just come check us out. Come check us out. But Anthony Martinez, also shout out to you. Thank you so much for the $5. He says, do you think SIR's PSA 10s for temporal will come down, or should I just buy it now and try to win some auctions off eBay? You can take this one first.
God, it's hard, dude. I mean, here's the thing. If we're going to go off the assumption that every set is going to get reprinted, then yes, they're probably going to come down. If you're going off the assumption that this is a shorter term play and you don't think temporal is going to get a reprint for like maybe a year down the road or more, yeah, they could actually run up pretty good in the meantime, because they are sought after. Those cards are very hard to pull, and they're great looking cards in my opinion. So could be a great short-term play, like in the next, month to 12 months plus or something. And then if they don't get reprinted, if that set doesn't get reprinted, those are going to be great in the long term. you just make sure you understand the risk you're taking. If a reprint does come, the sealed product as well as the singles and PSA 10 prices will fall. So enter at your own risk type thing.
Well, so and here's something that actually Alex and I were considering talking about. We like discussed this before stream. So as far as it goes with the current market state, and I bring this up a bajillion times, right? The best time to buy is typically going into the holiday season because that's when all the reprints happen, and the best time to sell is typically right around, going into the spring or going into the summer. So like that 3-month window. And right now we're obviously in a time where I would personally believe it's not a good time to buy. You're going to see potential small reprints of certain things happen usually around this time currently. And there actually is one we'll kind of discuss here shortly. But
not a good time to buy what though?
Huh?
Not a good time to buy what though?
Oh, just typically speaking, if you're wanting to ask the question of like, are prices going to go lower or not? I would much rather play the game of guessing that for sets that are in standard rotation and have a chance of being reprinted, right? Just to clarify, in the holiday season. Because then if it does get a reprint, you're going to buy in when it gets that reprint. But you're not going to typically know that. Like most of the times, if we look at the last kind of couple of times we got a small reprint for items, over around the May period, it was one, very tiny, and two, it was usually for like semi-older product. Like, so for a good example, we've had multiple distributors throw up Lost Origin and Brilliant Stars booster boxes for sale. Are they at wholesale pricing? No. Like one of our distros is selling them for like $175. I actually just had one of my distributors reach out to me today. I'll kind of keep everyone more informed if it's really something worth discussing, but they're doing a bundle where you can buy Lost Origin Silver Tempest, Lost Origin Brilliant at wholesale price, but it's like an insane bundle. Like you have to pick up so much stuff, and I don't know if they're limiting it to one per account. So I'm trying to see like if there's more details that the validity of it, but it's basically feeling really small right now. And it feels small in the same way that we typically see for around that May time, right? Because we did have a Brilliant and we did have an Astral reprint last May. It was also really small, right? Before that, we had like some ETB reprint for Vivid Voltage, Darkness Ablaze. It was pretty small, but ultimately didn't take much to crash the overinflated prices. So you'll see these small reprints happen around this May time. This is now the 4th time in a row since I've had access to distribution where it's been pretty consistent. Like this is just what happens. So right now, if you're trying to look at like more Scarlet Violet era stuff, I'd wait until at latest December. Like if you want to be like jumping the gun, you can wait till October or September, but like right now I don't think is the best time to buy temporal in particular, because it wouldn't surprise me if Pokemon just came out near the end of the year and said, yeah, we're reprinting Paldea Evolved Temporal Forces, Paradox Rift, blah, 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 blah. And don't think just because the price is super low doesn't mean they're going to do it. Because Scarlet and Violet base was really low, Battle Styles was really low, they still reprinted the crap out of it. And prices obviously tanked and sat low for a while.
As you can see, me and Eli are the yin and yang. Eli's always begging for reprints. I'm always like hoping they don't come.
Yeah, right. I just see reprints as another dollar cost average.
I know you don't watch like all the videos I post, but like that was one of my things I talked about in today's video. Is I agree with you on that, but I also think that especially sets that are like 2-3+ years old, it's actually kind of the best time to buy is summer, because usually summer is when things trend down.
Hold on 1 second. Well, like I said before, I specified by saying best time to buy for sets that are still in rotation.
Right. That's why I made you clarify that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think it's pretty? I mean, especially like XY Sun and Moon stuff could be a good pickup over summer.
Yeah, I think that's See, Sun, Moon, XY, and that kind of stuff is interesting because it's a completely different landscape. Because think about, like, for example, Sun and Moon era alternate arts, right? When did the prices of those realistically start to rise again?
I don't remember.
Like, if I'm correct, I'm gonna actually pull this up just because I don't want to.
Yeah, pull up the chart. I can't remember exactly.
I'm gonna pull up the chart real quick. So, just so that I can take a look at Team Up. and see the value. I'll just pull up the Latios because that's going to be a good one for me to easily pull up if we want to take a look at just the.
I want to say like spring of 22.
Okay, so I was right. Okay, so the Latios and Latios prices, they started to climb going from June all the way until October. So if you looked at actually the best time to buy this item, it was November, October, and December of 2022. That was when the price of the card was right around $400 a piece. And then you saw the price climb going from March, April, May, June, July, and then going into September is when it capped out at its highest point that it's at currently. So, because it's kind of been going sideways and up, but realistically, it basically went down again during the holiday season. So if I'm looking at the chart on Polkadata, obviously. So at the highest, it went up to 816. Then it went sideways during October, November, December, January, went and hit a low in February, but then rebounded and retested its high now in May. So
hold on. You're looking at it on Polkadata?
Yeah, Polkadata.io.
Sounds like you're back more than 6 months.
I am back more than 6 months.
Did you break down and pay?
There's a free trial. So I guess the point that I'm making with this is going back to Sun and Moon, looking at the chart, and I might actually, you know what, just to make this easy so that people can see, because I do want to present this so that people can see the screen share, so that people can just kind of see the chart, and hopefully this is big enough for people to see. I'll try and zoom it in. But if you look at the chart, the cheapest time to buy the first market cycle was obviously in November, and then prices kind of went up. Obviously, this is during 2021, so we kind of ignore that. It looks like it capped out right around the November time, and then going into about March is when you saw this huge increase in price, right? Caps out again in September, then kind of goes sideways and down in February, and then goes all the way back up in May. So
pull up like Umbreon VMAX. Let's see what that one's looking like.
Umbreon VMAX, like the Moonbreon.
Yeah, let's see how that one did.
Yeah, that's a good one to kind of look at. So, Evolving Skies.
Wow, they definitely updated their system.
Yeah, their UI looks nice. All right, and then we'll go. Do you want raw or PSA?
It doesn't matter. Raw 10 either.
Doesn't matter. Raw 10. All right, cool. So let's go back and look for this card. So it looks like it had, if we're going back to around the same market time, you had the price of the card at its low point right around the start of the summer.
See, and that's where I was talking about for summer.
Well, here's the hard thing, though, and this is why it's kind of hard to look at this. We had a massive reprint for Evolving Skies that happened in December/January. So end of 2021 going into 2022. So it's one of these things where it's a little bit of a different situation because the set did get a reprint. And so
here, go to 2023 summer. Where was that?
2023. Yeah, this is what I wanted to go look at.
Go to like June, July.
So let's look at 2023 because I think 2023 is a lot better of a picture to look at. So if you look at 2023, the start of January, right, was where it was at its low, right? End of the holiday season. Going into February, March, April, May is when it kind of capped out, right? Then the price went down, stabilized during the holiday season, and then after February, went all the way up in the lead up to the summer.
Yeah.
So it's still following that trending pattern. And I would argue it's just like a seasonal pattern, right? It's seasonality.
Let's do one more. Let's do one that wouldn't be affected by reprints or print. Let's do like either like, I don't know, maybe like the Shining Legends Mewtwo, or maybe like an XY card, like a, you know, a
do you want to do an XY card? Do you want to do an XY or Sun and Moon era? What are we thinking here?
It doesn't matter. Just any of those earlier sets or later XY sets won't be affected by any printing. So that'd be good.
All right. So let's do
hit that Shining Legends Mewtwo. Let's see what that did.
You want to do Shining Legends Mewtwo, the test tube?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's look at test tube. Let's see how test tube did.
Good info to put out there.
Yeah, of course. So if we look at the test tube Mewtwo, so let's go to start of 2023 because I like to look at 2023 because once you start getting into like early 2022, mid 2022, we're still coming off of COVID times, right? All right, so flat lines, right? January 3rd, 2023. And then you start to see it in about March is when it starts to increase, right? Caps out in August, then going into September, the holiday season, prices correct all the way until about November. And then about the end of the holiday season, going into the start of the new year in January, you start to see prices go up. And then you start to see the biggest increase in about March during the springtime.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's also following the same trending pattern.
Yeah.
So it's just seasonality in my mind, right? That's how I look. Is there any more that you want me to show?
No, I mean, I think
someone did say check Gengar Mimikyu. We can check the Gengar Mimikyu before we finish up here.
The reason I like the Shiny Legends Mewtwo or XY cards is because they wouldn't have been affected by any type of pumps, right? Like,
wait, no, whoopsie.
The waifus and the tag teams got pumped. Sword and Shield, they were going through.
Yeah. No, I think that was a good one to choose. We are going to team up. Gengar Mimikyu. So, wait, this is just the full art. This isn't the alternate art. Why is it not?
No, it is.
It is.
It
is. It is. Okay. I always thought the other one. I thought the standard one actually looked kind of cooler. I don't know if you disagree with me on this, but I actually like this one better.
Same.
I think this one looks cooler. They've got the moon in the background. But all right, cool. So looking at it from TCG player pricing over a year period. So let's go to the start of 2023. All right, so going into 2023. So January 9th, start of the year. So it looks like there was a little bit of a run up right before, but obviously, once again, the major run up was into the springtime, caps out in July, right around the end of July. And then you finally start to see it descend in price going into roughly around September. So going back into the holiday season, the price then corrected finally where it hit its low in March. And then since March, it's gone up again. So, yeah, it's following the exact same pattern. The only difference is this one has a slightly different lagging behind it, and it hasn't rebounded as strong as the Latios has. Latios has been much stronger. So, but yeah, I mean, just look at this run up literally from February/March all the way until July. Like that run up from spring to summer, it's crazy. So, like I said, man, when it comes to like looking at times to sell, not financial advisor, you're going to see a lot of these cap outs for Sword and Shield era product probably in the next month or so. I mean, arguably, we saw with some of the other cards we looked at that some of them did cap out at the end of May, but it does seem pretty consistent that July is usually around the cap out time average.
I have been running a lot of auctions lately.
You're like, I am selling.
I've seen this dog and pony show before.
Yeah, so I look at it as once again going back to its seasonality, right? And these two things play into one another. It plays into the fact that Pokemon is aware of the seasonality that Pokemon has, and so they play into that, right? Because you have that general supply and demand curve that typically comes to sets that are out of rotation. And then on top of that, within that correlation, Pokemon then takes that general supply and demand curve and then bases their reprints around that as well. Because you have to think that most kids are typically at this point out of school, at least within the area that I reside in Phoenix. And so most of them are going to be spending their time out just enjoying the nice weather. And then once it's time for kids to go back to school and they're on vacation during break time, or they're just celebrating the holidays, is when kids tend to get more involved with TCGs because they like going to events on Friday nights or on weekends, or they like to see what new reprints of a new set that comes out or a new specialty set that Pokemon does during the holiday season, because that's what Pokemon tends to do around that time frame. So you see a typical drop off in seasonality, at least on a local level, when it comes to the general demand. But what's interesting is, of course, because of that, the supply is not being pushed as much, and then general movement of money starts to occur during that summer period. And then, of course, it's weird. It's like the best way to explain it is I would argue that more money moves in the holiday, but more plays are made during the summer. Does that make sense?
Well, more money moves in terms of like volume of money because they're dumping so much more products on the market.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's one of these
kind of like right now. There's probably more Japanese 151 moving right now, but it's continuing to drop because there's just too much supply.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. So yeah, I mean, and it's funny too because we're opening our storefront right going into the summer.
Yeah.
So best time to open a storefront in the summer, but you can't.
Hey man, you just want to make sure that you just want to survive, man.
Yeah, dude, I gotta start.
You wanted to prove to yourself and everyone else that you could survive in the worst time.
Yeah, come on, guys, it's a freaking storefront. So excited. Yeah, but no. Seasonality. I mean, it will be interested to see what the reprinted product is going to be come this September, October time. But I mean, if we look at 2021, I love to always go to that one because we had so many booster box reprints. They reprinted like 7 or 8 booster box sets. So it would not surprise me if Paldea Evolved, Paradox, Obsidian, Temporal, all these sets got reprinted.
Dude, if that does, I'm just going to cry. I'm actually not even going to show up for the podcast that week. I'm just going to cry.
I mean, look, man, we talked about this before stream. I think that it would actually be better for not only hobby shops, but the market in general, if Pokemon came out and said, we're going to reprint sets once, unless it's really high demand, we'll reprint it twice. The consistency would be insane. And the value that you could get from demand coming into the market would be so much bigger. Because if I came in, right, and I looked at Scarlet and Violet base, or I looked at Temporal, or any of these sets that have basically been around the $100 price point, give or take, and I said, hey, these sets are sitting at around $100 for the past 6 months to a year. Pokemon Company looks at that and says, we're not going to reprint it. There's so much more consistency in that, rather than if like a set like Paldea Evolved or like 151, where you see the inherent prices go up, they address it with having just one reprint, but at least you know that, okay, this high demand set got this one reprint, there's no more. This is your last chance to get in while the price does have its correction. Like there would be, I feel like, a lot more healthiness to the market, rather than us being under the general assumption that Pokemon does not give a frick and they will reprint anything no matter how good it's performing in the market around the holiday season. And we have to play the guessing game of hoping that it's going to reprint the right things, right? Because we don't know what it's going to reprint. We can assume based on 2021 that it's going to reprint the majority of things, but they could say, hey, we don't want to reprint Temporal. We don't want to reprint Paradox. I mean, Paradox is performing so poorly. So it's like, it's one that they could say they don't want to reprint, but odds are they don't really give a frick. So who knows? But I mean, the only one I feel pretty confident, obviously nothing's 100%, is Paldea Evolved. That one seems really likely candidate for a reprint, but you know, who knows, right? It could be a situation where it doesn't happen. Only time's going to tell.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, what things sucks about the sports market is you're dealing with like human beings, right? Players. And all the crazy things that can happen in the sport, in their lives, all that stuff. But one thing the sports has really nice is they have years, right? When they print that 2024 set, you know they're not going to reprint that set next year, right? They're moving to 2025. That's what's so nice about the sports market. And, you know, there's just no way to get there for TCGs because they got to worry about the players and all that, you know, kind of BS. Like, I think Magic's kind of got, you know, Magic doesn't do everything right, but I think they have it kind of figured out with having a collector's box. And then, you know, with the serialized cards, like, you know, everyone thought that the whole, you know, One Ring was going to crash the Lord of the Rings collector's boxes, and it didn't. There was a downturn. It didn't crash them though. Like they held up very good because there's other serialized cards, and it's so. Again, Pokemon knows what they're doing. It's just obviously for investors, you want there to be less reprints, less product available, and which is we'll see what happens. See what happens.
Yeah, and that's that's something that you cannot predict, right? You can, but you can't predict it, right? Like I can easily come out and say, all right, guys, we think that a reprint is going to happen around this time, and then it could happen for certain things and it couldn't happen for certain things. Those are the questions you won't know, but at least you'll know that if it does happen, it's going to be around a certain time. Also, just since you brought it up, so the price of the Lord of the Rings collector, it went from, after it was announced, it was selling for around $480, and then it dropped all the way down to around $365. But there was a second wave of collectors that did come out, so that brought the price down, and now it's selling for $505. So the collector has now retested and broken its all-time high. So I mean, I know it's not Pokemon, but that just goes to show you, man. I mean, lowest listed right now on TCG Player, 540. That's a lot. 540 is crazy. So I actually gave that. My dad's a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and for Christmas I gave him a collector box as a gift. So
yeah, I mean, I like, everyone's got different opinions on the hobby. I like that side of things though. I hope Pokemon eventually does something like that for the collectors, because it's such a strange hobby, right? It's very clear that there's far more collectors than there are players. Like the players are not the highest, volume of this hobby, but it seems like they kind of cater everything to the players, to the smallest portion of the hobby. It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
It's like you should be catering a little bit to the collectors too, right? I don't know.
It is a weird one, to say the least, because I don't want to say this. There's a reason why I have started to get a lot more into Magic bulk. And it's purely because they do a much better job when it comes to, in my opinion, regulating the competitive landscape of Magic itself. I know that everyone has their criticisms in regards to the reserve list, but ultimately Pokemon cares more about affordability than they do about the actual landscape of people selling off the bulk competitive singles, right? I mean, when the Iono came out and it was selling for $3 a card as a trainer in Paldea Evolved, it was fantastic because you could open Paldea Evolved and you could have some of your packs literally paid for by pulling a trainer card. It was great, right? And then
they got reprinted.
And so what they did was they came out with the Iono milk cartons, and then
reprinted Paldean Fates.
Yeah, so it's like and then added it in Paldean Fates. So the Iono has been addressed multiple times now. I mean, they did this with Marnie. Marnie's another character where they did the exact same thing, right? Marnie was included in multiple different sets and also given its own milk carton. So it's like, they don't give a flying crap, man. They're going to throw it in, and they're also going to throw it in trainer toolkits. They're also going to throw it in certain specialty build and battles, right? It's something that they are going to drop the price as much as possible. So versus with Magic typically what they've done is they've taken a look at prices and have said, hey, that Ixalan commander deck, that thing is it's now pushing quite expensive. It's gone up a lot. Let's print that. And then they print it, and then people get in it. And for me, I ain't mad at it, because I'm looking right now at Ixalan. We just put in pre-orders for that for the commanders. The margins right now are roughly around 150% off of what you can make from the bulk / let me put it this way. So you might not know this, Alex, but a display of commander decks includes either 4 or 5 typical commander decks. So with Ixalan, the price that you're paying for wholesale is right around $111 for a pack of 4. Within Ixalan right now, one of the decks alone is selling for $139. So literally one deck right now pays for the rest of them. And so the rest of them are just free tendies. And I think the other three add up to like an additional $150, $160.
Do you pre-order a lot of stuff?
Oh my God. Of course. Yeah. I mean, so we put in orders right now for about a little over
No. I mean, like, do you personally sell pre-orders on like TCG Play or eBay?
I do, because I am a certified hobby shop, so I do.
How many of those get canceled when the prices drop?
So I want to preface by saying this: I just started recently doing pre-orders. I want to say about 2 months ago. I have yet to experience it so far. It's been 2 months. It's been 2 months. It's not been like a crazy amount of pre-order stuff that I've put on, but like for Fallout, for example, I did put some Fallout product on pre-order, and it all sold, and I didn't have any refunds. They just came out with Missville for Fab, and we did sell some of those. And the cases, we sold 3 cases, none of them got refunded. So haven't experienced it so far. I've talked to other storefronts. I've talked to Mason. I've talked to Rob with RNG Games. They've told me that it doesn't happen as often as you might think. You think it might happen more often than it actually does, but it happens.
It's always been my stance in this hobby. You know, I've talked about like the drama channels, like they'll show all these, you know, scams happening. It's like, I've been selling eBay for 12 years. I've never been scammed. Like, you know, everything's so few and far between. Like everyone canceling the pre-orders. Like, it's all overblown. Not as many people are, you know, assholes as people make it out to be.
Yeah, it's yeah. Well, that's something that I would say yes, but also no, because shout out to Rob on this one. He made a video not that long ago. So he was saying, so Rob has his own like kind of program that he runs for his Patreon, and his program, he runs it a little bit differently. If I'm correct, he has like tiers of like limiting quantities, and then he charges like an additional 10% over what the cost of the price of the item is. But one thing that he does that's a little different than we do is when you place an order with us, you are basically committing to buying that product by placing that order. He made a video about it, talking about how people basically have been like placing orders and then dropping their allocations last second, and how he's had like $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 worth of product. He didn't give an exact number, but he threw like those ranges around of like people basically making him like foot the bill on it. And so he's had to kind of make a change on that. To be fair, obviously, like I said, he runs his program differently than I do. Thankfully, we haven't had that issue, but that's because we have like a big no policy on that. Because ultimately, with the way we have it structurally set up, it's pretty easy for you to basically order your product and pay for it right then and there. We basically require it unless it's a pre-order item. And so it's like, yeah.
Like I was gonna say, like
it's still out there.
Like, yeah, nothing against Rob, but it's like it's easy fix. Like you do that one time, you get banned.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I mean, it's like, hey, if you do this, you get banned. Like you get one strike, you're out.
Because like, how would you feel, right, if there was news of a Reprint?
Everyone wants the free tendies, and they don't want to work through the downturns. It's always been the case in this hobby.
Right. It's like, how would you feel if we, as a wholesale program, right? Because we sell things, like I said, we sell it to you at wholesale. Literally, ask Alfred. He's our mod that is in charge of all the pricing. He and so how would you feel if we said that we'll charge it to you at wholesale, but after the release happens, if prices go up, we're going to sell it to you at that price.
Right.
You would feel like crap, right? In the same way that if, after the release, prices went down, and then you were like, well, I don't want the product anymore, so I'm going to not pick it up. It goes both ways, right? Because the market's going to move. It's going to move one way or another way, and you always want it to favor in your way. So I think the most respectable thing to do is always honor the price, no matter what, right? If you have a booster box that you were pre-selling for 110 goes up to 150, don't be a scumbag and cancel pre-orders on customers. Keep it at 110. You honor that price. And it goes the same way if the price goes down, right? That's how it should be.
I got, I'm not gonna say blown up, but I definitely had some people in the chat saying, "Well, Alex, it's called a trading card game," and like talking about the players. Like, I look, guys, listen. I know very well that my stance on things is the unpopular opinion a lot of the time. That's why I say it, right? Like, I'm not. I just, everyone has their own opinion. Like, I get that, everyone likes the players and all that stuff, but I don't know. I just think sometimes it'd be a little better to have something for the collectors too. But, and then also I wanted to take Eric's question. He said, does anyone remember at what point Evolving Skies was easy to get, excluding Pokemon Center? Did your LGS have them? So Eric, from what I remember, they were out there, very hard to find under $100 though. So like, yeah, they were out there, but they were, 110, 120 in stores. Right, Eli?
Yeah. I mean, it was plentiful from 2021 until I want to say about, I mean, gosh, let me see if I can actually pull it up. I should be able to pull up the sealed price on it so we can see when it did start to move up from above like 130. So
yes, and that's kind of the thing. It's like all the boxes, like Team Up, like everything is always available. So like I know people like always talk about that, they always like use that word, it wasn't available. Everything's always available. It's just at what price? Like, no, not everything's always been available at $90 a box or $95 a box.
So just to put this out there, right? Whether you think it is a good price or not. So it was from the period of roughly around November until January, selling for roughly anywhere between 105 to as high as 130. So there was about a November, December, January. Yeah. So you've got about November, December, January. You've got a 3-month period where it was selling between 105 and 130. And then you had about what looks to be how many month period is this? Looks to be roughly around a 6-month period where it was selling for anywhere between 130 up until 175. And then it finally ran up right before the reprint happened in August. And then what was interesting about the reprint, that went quick. Like reprint happened, price went down for about 2 weeks, and then it just skyrocketed. It was not something that like, it was almost like pre-baked into the cake. Like you had about the full month of August where prices kind of went down, and then it just went up from there. So I would say that you had about.
I want to throw it out there that like,
yeah,
that's Pokedata, right?
Yeah, this is Pokedata.
So I think they get a lot of that sealed data from TCG Player. The issue with that is TCG Player, they won't freaking add shipping in to the prices. And so 105 could have been 105, or it could have been like 105 plus 10 shipping. So like, it's hard to know if it was ever 105, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. I know for at least me, when I was running my website, I was selling at 105. That's what I was selling Evolving for.
Fair. We have a fair businessman here.
Yeah, and then when the pre-reprint happened, I sold it for 125 for Evolving if you bought it with like I can't remember. I think if you bought it with a Brilliant Stars booster, I sold them for 125 a piece, and then if you bought it by itself, I sold it for 135.
I love how like that was like a bundle to get rid of things. Like, oh, I'm getting rid of a Brilliant Stars booster.
Yeah. So Evolving, if we're looking at it range from about August to August, I would say have about 10 months between August to August that you were able to get it for roughly anywhere between 115 to around 100 and we'll say $50 to $60, right? That was kind of your window. If you really think about it, it's very short compared to most of the other sets, but it was still a window of availability where you could have gotten it. But let's be real here, right? I mean, I'll be the first one to admit it. When the price went up to 150, 160, I told people that I don't think it's a good buy anymore, right? I didn't expect it to go to 700, right? I said at 120, it's a good buy. At 130, it's a good buy. But once it breaks above MSRP, I start to feel less confident about being a good buy because I don't know how much farther it's going to run past 200. It could run up to 200. It could be a good buy. Be discretionary about that. But I'm not expecting this to be an item that's going to go crazy. And here's what I said. Here is something I did say though. Until the reprint happens, I said that if the reprint happened after the run up to 200, then it's just clear skies from there up until what I would say 300. Then it's going to take a while before it moves up.
Yeah,
I
and
was
yet
right
another,
and
another
wrong at the same
Disney,
time in that regard.
yeah, yet another Disney Universal Funko Pop couple. Say I'm sick of Evo Skies, great set, not available for reasonable price. I agree. So that's kind of why we're talking about it, is when or if that does come along in Scarlet and Violet, to understand like the past, right? Like understand that, hey, if a set comes out and it's extremely good and it's like taught to be, you know, the next Evolving Skies, or at least up there in that class of sets, don't like be surprised if it's 115, 120, 125. Like don't get in that caught up in that mindset of, oh, all these are going to get reprinted. They're going to be $85, $90 a box. It's like, there have been sets that doesn't happen to. So like maybe when that set does come around and you think that's it, maybe you don't wait. Maybe you do buy it at 105, 110 a box.
So timeline of my thought process was this, right? First wave of Evolving comes out. I say pick it up. When the reprint happened at like end of 2021 going into 2022, I basically told people to pick it up until it hit around MSRP price. Then I said it's not worth picking up. There's going to be a reprint for this set. Wait until that reprint happens. Reprint happens. I know that at least on my site, I was selling it for 135. Other people were selling it for 135 or 120-ish if you did a bundle. And I told people, hey, I was hoping this reprint was going to be bigger. It wasn't. It was a small reprint. Now is your time to get in. You have to get in now. As much as I hate to say it, now's the time to get in. Price goes up to 180. And I said, here's the thing. Here's my thought process. I don't like picking it up at 180 right now because its all-time high is 200. But if it breaks 200, then I don't think it's going to stop until it gets to around 3. So if you want to take that chance, you can take that chance. And for the people that did, obviously, congratulations, because it broke 200 and shot up to 300 within a month. So, you know, it goes to show you, like, because how I looked at the Evolving Skies is I looked at it as like analyzing the market, because there are certain price points that people look at and fundamentally say, oh my God, that's a lot. Because seeing $200 for a booster box was a big deal at the time. Like, you didn't really see that often in Sword and Shield past the price point of Vivid Voltage, when that was getting a short supply and it got up to 240. So it was something where I felt like that once that got kind of pushed past, then I was like, all right, I think 300 is the next stop, but I can't predict from there. And boy, I never would have predicted 6 or 7. Nope. I thought it, honestly, in my like conservative prediction, I thought it was going to go to 300 and then it was going to take a couple of months before it got up to 4. And then it was going to kind of go sick at 4. I never thought it would get up to 6 or 7. I thought 400 was going to be the round out area.
I remember when I said 7 at the beginning of 2023 and it seemed crazy. And then I literally missed it by like a month.
Yeah.
Like it hit 7 in January.
Yeah. Well, that's I don't know. It was weird.
You had to have learned at this point in this hobby. Anything that you think is like reasonable and realistic, you need to add like a percentage to. Like add 30% or add 50% to that number. That's where we are.
Well, and that's why I always tell people, like, I know this isn't really like, you'll understand what I mean when I say this. It's like under promise, over deliver. That's kind of how I think about it when I give my predictions. Like, I would much rather make the prediction that, like, I think Evolving Skies could get to $200 by the end of 2024 and then be wildly wrong and people be happy about it. You know what I mean? Because that's what I did. I said, I don't think this is a hot take. I think Lost Origin could get to the $200 by end of year, right? And like I said this to you as well. I said that I think that it's possible, as wild as this sounds, I think it's possible that Lost Origin could get to $500 a booster by May of 2025. Now, is that my conservative prediction? No, my conservative prediction is it's going to get to $300 by May of 2025. But considering I was wildly off on most of my conservative predictions for Lost Origin and these other sets, I say that with the preface of like, hey, I'm going to say conservatively 300, but if it hits 5, I'm not going to be surprised in the slightest.
Yeah, like around New Year's when I made a video, I said Charizard UPCs was one of the products I talked about. I said, I think it could hit 150 by the end of the year. Look how that went. We're already past that. So
yeah, we're at like 160 right now, I think. So.
It's just, I think it's this hobby's wild, dude.
Yeah. Okay, so we're at about an hour and a half right now. So if there's anyone that has a couple of questions, we're just gonna kind of wrap it up here because we'd love to just keep going. But I'll just say as well, thank you once again for stopping by, folks. Really does help us out if you leave comment, if you like the video or subscribe. Helps the algorithm, helps the channel. And then yeah, wholesale program. We already gave you guys the spiel earlier about the value of it. So if you want to join that, link down in the description below, or feel free to message me if you have any questions about that or want to be a part of the Discord.
It's so funny hearing you say we're at an hour and a half right now, and you're usually trying to be done about an hour or so.
I know. Well, at this point, I've just kind of given up. We have never done a video that's been for a 1 hour session. I started off, I told Alex, I was like, hey, so when we do this, I want to kind of make it an hour long thing. And he's like, yeah, that works. We have literally never done 1 hour session. I think the shortest we've done is an hour and 15. Like maybe. We're usually around an hour and a half to an hour and 45 on average, I want to say. So, but yeah, let's see if we got any good questions. We'll ask a couple and then we'll finish it. Do you think the Raging Bolt will drop lower than the 90s? I assume is what that means to say.
Yeah, definitely. So Raging Bolt, although like for me personally, I think it should be the top card in the set. I like it more than Iron Crown, but that's me. But yeah, it's playable, right? It's playable. That's why all of them jumped, like the gold version, the regular EX version, the full art version, they're all up. And so no, it'll once the new meta comes around, it'll drop back down. The Iron Crown will probably overtake it again.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go with your stance on that. I would agree with you. The only thing I can really say is we'll see if there's a reprint.
Don't get caught collecting or investing in playable cards when they're playable. Don't do that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Iono dropped. I mean, you might not realize it, but the Iono price point correction, this is just my personal belief. I do think there is some validity to the fact that the alternate art did drop because they started pushing out more art variations of the Iono. I could be wrong, right? But I mean, it was the most expensive card for the longest time on Paldea Evolved, and the price was selling for as high as 150, but then it kind of stabilized around 115, 120, and now it's selling for right around $80. So for me, I don't think it's a coincidence considering you had the alternate art version shown up in the Paldean Fates, and then you also as well had some of the Marnie full arts, obviously not alt arts, but come up and kind of I mean, at least look at the regular standard ultra rare, the Iono. That one's tanked like crazy. That was going for $40 and now it's going for 18. So I know for a fact it at least changed that. I mean, the Iono regular card, like I said, it was $3. Now it's selling for like 15 cents. Like that's don't get caught, man. Don't get caught, that's for sure. So it's crazy to see. But oh man. Paradox Rift or Crown, which one to drop $200 on? Dude, Paradox Rift is so cheap right now. It's crazy. I would still do Crown though.
That's so hard.
Really? You don't like Crown? Well, I guess it's a question. It's a question. I guess is it a question of like investability? Is it a question of like fun to open? Like, honestly, I still feel pretty confident Crown is the right answer. And,
yeah, 100%.
And maybe this is me, and because we know that right now the market volatility is 100% in boosters compared to ETBs, right? And that goes for specialty as well compared to standard.
That's why I'm like hesitant.
Right. I think Crown Zenith is going to surprise people.
I hope.
I think it is going to surprise people. I honestly think it is. And for what it is right now as well, I think it's cheap. I think Crown Zenith is cheap for what it is right now. I can see this being because here's my thing, right? Champions Path ETBs, they got a reprint. Price went from $90, dropped all the way down into like the 40s. It's been going sideways for a while now, but it's been going sideways at around 100, 110. It's not a special set. It's a terrible set, but the prices perform well.
What is?
Champion's Path.
Oh.
Right, but
I don't like that example though.
You don't like that? Well, I was going to give multiple other ones. I'll give another example.
That's like looking at like, Rebel Clash or base set,
But it's not though, because it got multiple reprints.
I get it.
Champion's Path got multiple reprints, and the price went from $100, then it went into the 40s, and then it went back up again. 40s is a really strong price pickup, right? For the item. I remember I was buying it at GameStop for $40, and I was canceling my pre-orders because the price kept crashing, and I was actually able to pick it up on distro for $35.
I'm just worried we haven't seen a single specialty set take off since the pandemic.
And here's, I guess, my point with that is I think that the specialty sets that we've had have been relatively weak. And I want to preface by saying this because people are going to be like, oh, 151 Crown Zenith, right? When I say that, I guess what I mean by relatively weak is Shining Fates is okay. Paldean Fates it's okay, right? And the thing about Shining Fates has had multiple reprints. It got a reprint back in May of 2022, and then it actually got a tiny reprint. People don't know this, around the same time of Brilliant Stars and Astral reprint. It actually got one reprint. It was a tiny one, and the price, if you look at TCG Player, you'll see the price of the ETB go from $60 to $40. So price dipped quite a bit because of that reprint.
You think Paldean Fates is just okay?
I think it's a better set than Paldean Evolve, than Shining Fates for sure. But I don't see it as being one of those specialty sets that's going to surprise people in the same way that 151 and Crown Zenith will. That's at least how I look at it. And now, look, right? There is an argument to be made that, like, well, what about Celebrations? Like, why isn't Celebrations gone up? Celebrations is one of those sets that
no god tier rarity.
Yeah, I was gonna say Celebrations. I look at that as a set that's a cool set to own, but it's not a set that people are like craving to get because they just love opening Celebrations to chase that hit. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, like, it's a really easy set to master set. Like, it's not hard to pull the Charizard. It's not hard to pull the Umbreon. It's not hard to pull most of the good pulls. Like, Umbreon was selling for like $100 for the longest time, and now it's selling for like $17. Like, it's crazy cheap, right? So for me, I look at that and I say, all right, so let's think, right? We've got Shining Fates, Champion's Path, Celebrations, Crown Zenith, Pokemon Go, everyone's fan favorite, right? Then 151, and I can't remember if I said Crown Zenith already, but like, those are your sets. Those are your specialty sets that you've gotten. And arguably the strongest ones with the best chases, I would say, would be 151 and Crown Zenith, which is the last 2 out of 3 specialty sets that we've gotten. And I would argue that Crown Zenith is a top 5 set of all time. I think it is.
I mean, MD Sports Cards, like, talking about Celebrations like Evolutions. I mean, I get what you're trying to say. It's not, though. Like, for one, it's not a specialty set. It doesn't have just 4-card packs. And it was, when it was released, right, it was $80, $90 a box, when base set booster boxes in that time were going for already $2,000. So it was like, it was a way to open and relive the nostalgia of everyone, our age getting back in the hobby, being able to relive base set for $90. It's the same philosophy of why the Legend of Blue Eyes box is doing so well in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is because Legend of Blue Eyes, go back and try to buy one of those boxes, right? That's why that box is doing well, because people want to relive that nostalgia for a fraction of the cost. Whereas Celebrations, it has reprint cards in it, but Evolutions is the closest reprint we've had since like Legendary Collection. It's been like 20 years. And so, or 15 years at the time.
I think Evolutions is better than Celebrations.
Well, yeah, of course. I'm saying, but like, it had so many differences. Like, it was a booster box. It was a much closer reprint. It was,
but if Evolutions was an ETB set, I think it would still be better as a set than Celebrations. That's me.
Yeah, better, not as good as where it is.
Yeah. I think that the celebrations value is going to come at the 30th anniversary. I think that if you really want to say like when is celebrations going to pop off, I think it's going to be in about a year and a half, 2 years from now. Because
and if it doesn't, I'm dumping.
I mean, I think I'll be picking up celebrations in the next year for that reason. I'm going to pick some more up. I'm going to move some more because I think that's going to get people nostalgic. But yeah, but like think about it. Did you think here, and I can just so I can look at ordering, right? And I'm just gonna rapid fire just ask you this question, right? So we'll go starting from Shining Fates. 1 to 10. Where do you think Shining Fates is 1 to 10? Just rapid fire.
1 to 10. All right, I'm gonna put that like 8.
For Shining Fates, celebrations. Where do you put that?
7.
Pokemon Go.
10.
All right, you're just trolling at this point,
dude. What? Pokemon Go?
You're putting Pokemon Go at a 10? You think Pokemon Go is a better set?
No. Oh no, I thought it was like 1 is the best.
Oh, no, 10's the best. Sorry.
Oh, well then here, start over. Go ahead. Go start over.
Okay. I was so confused.
Okay, Shining Fates. So Shining Fates, I put 3. Celebrations, I put 4, and then Pokemon Go's 1.
Okay. Okay. So far, the 3 I've mentioned, you put below 5, right? Crown Zenith.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a Dave Portnoy thing with the pizza reviews. I don't want to like give anything a 10 in case something else comes along.
Give it a 9.2.
I'd probably give it a 9.
You give it a 9. 151.
I can't give it a 9 also.
You can. I mean, we're not doing Dave.
Here, give it. I'll go 8. I'll go 8.
You'll go 8? Okay. And then where do you put Paldean Fates?
6 or 7.
6 or 7, right? Okay. Look at just the ratings you gave, the disparity between the two. You think that 151 and Crown Zenith are 2 to 3 times better sets than the specialty sets we got within the first/second-ish half of Sword and Shield. I think that I'm not saying, right?
What do you think about that list I had? How do you feel about it? Pretty
Pokemon
accurate.
Go to 1. I would agree with Pokemon Go to 1. Shining Fates, you gave it a 3. I would say I would just move Shining Fates from a 3 to a 4, and then Celebrations from a 4 to a 5, and then so like slightly better. I would say that I would keep 151 and Crown Zenith at what you put it at, and then I would say that for man, I feel like with Paldean Fates, I wouldn't give it a 7, but I would give it like a 6.7. If that makes sense. Yeah. Like it's a high 6, but it's not breaking that 7.
Yeah.
But you see what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that these sets are going to be like $200, $300 ETB sets, but what I am saying is that people are going to look at all of the specialty ETB sets we've gotten over the past several years, and they're going to look to Crown Zenith and 151 and say, oh, they're going to perform like these other terrible sets. And then they're going to be surprised when they realize, wow, Crown Zenith is like 3-4 times better of a set than Shining Fates. Like, like I don't think that's something that's crazy to kind of put out there, but it is what it is, right? I know obviously, the only, I would say, real counter argument you can make to that is like the Hidden Fate situation, where Hidden Fates has been randomly stagnant for the longest time. But I would encourage people to also recognize the fact that we're in a completely different era now, where Hidden Fates is, in my opinion, during the time, it was considered one of the best sets, if not the best set of all time. But because of the way it's aging with full arts compared to SIRs, it's starting to age out, and it's a victim of its time for that reason. It still has
also singling out Hidden Fates, like it's by the way, it's every specialty set. Dragon Majesty isn't moving, Shining Legends isn't moving, Generations isn't moving.
Not right now, but obviously we saw huge increases in Generations.
Ever since the pandemic, those sets just have not moved.
Yeah, no, since the pandemic they have.
But the booster boxes have. So it's like when I did that research, it really kind of stunted me from like going too heavy in specialty sets, because I've noticed that the move away from the ETBs after the pandemic.
Okay, so how about this? This is, I guess, what I'm more or less trying to say. Booster boxes move progressively over time. ETBs make one big move and then stay sideways for a long time. I think that Crown Zenith is going to at some point make its big move and then it's going to go sideways. That's what I like about Crown Zenith more so than Paradox, because even if hypothetically we say Paradox, moves from 90 and it slowly goes up. I mean, what's Paradox at right now? Like 90, 95, something like that. I know on certain distros you can get it into low 80s, right? So,
really?
Huh?
Really?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, one of our distros was like saying if you buy it for 86, I had someone message me. There's this one distro we stopped using because I just didn't like the way they allocated things. Someone messaged me and was like, hey, I don't know if you know this distro, but they're selling Paradox for $80 a box. You see about getting them. And I'm like, yo, I actually have them, but I just stopped. It was our old distro 4, but we got rid of them. So for a new one. So anyway, but what was I going to say with this? So it's one of these things where I look at Paradox and I say to myself, okay, what do I think is more likely to happen? Crown Zenith is going to hit $100 as an ETB, and potentially runs up to that, or do I think that Paradox is going to hit MSRP? I don't think Paradox is going to hit MSRP, especially considering the fact that Crown Zenith just had a big reprint back in September, October, and I don't anticipate another reprint versus Paradox, as cheap as it is right now, is still on the radar for a potential reprint. I hate to say it. It's still possible. People didn't think Battle Styles was going to get a reprint. It did. It got a massive reprint and the price went down into the 70s. And Paradox could go above 100 and go back to 80 again.
Well, that's why this game's so kind of stupid in a way. It's like, well, like take Paldea Evolved, right? You could say that versus like anything, any set you want, and be like, so what do you think in the next like year? It's like, well, maybe Paldea doesn't get a reprint from, I mean, it's almost a year old. So it's like, well, it's actually outperforming a lot of things. But then if you say, well, what about like 2 years? Well, now it's had a reprint. Now it's down. Well, what about 3 years? Well, now it's back up. It's like every time frame is going to have a different answer.
Oh, of course. Of course. But I guess in the context of the question being asked, Paradox, Rift, or Crown Zenith, I still like Crown Zenith because even if a reprint doesn't happen from a Paradox, Crown Zenith feels like a safer pick.
Yeah. What about here? What about this? You Small Fish gave 2 euros. Percentage SV base gets a reprint this year. Right under that, MD Sports Card said 99%. I'm not on board with that.
Hold on. Before we jump into that, I do have one question for you.
Okay.
Where would you, so thinking top 3, top 5, top 7, top 10, right? In this kind of like mentality, where would you put Crown Zenith as a top what set, if that makes sense?
In terms of like the strength of the set or investment?
Strength of the set, not investment.
Like ever?
Like ever. Like you look at the art design within Crown Zenith, where do you say it is in terms of like the strength as far as it goes as a set?
Definitely top 5.
Yeah.
Top 3.
I feel confident in top 5. I think it could be top 3 as well.
Yeah, it's such a hard question because like even though like I'm not like all about investing in a lot of the vintage stuff because it's already so high, like there are some really strong vintage sets that would probably still make it up there. Like Team Rocket Returns is an amazing set.
Yeah.
And obviously you have Team Up, you have Evolving Skies. You've got, there's other sets that can make it up there.
I guess what makes it for me one where I feel pretty confident in its top 3 ability is although these other sets like Team Up and Unbroken Bonds in them have some incredible top art designs, Crown Zenith is nothing but amazing art designs. Like it doesn't miss. Like it has everything you could want. It has Altart Deoxys, Giratina, Dialga, Palkia, Leafeon, Glaceon. Like it has so many.
You know why you like it so much.
Okay. All right. Well,
that's all your generation.
Mewtwo. Yeah, it's got an alternate Mewtwo, right? So like
that is one of my favorite Mewtwo's of all time, right behind Shining Legends. I give you that.
Sick Mewtwo, and it has multiple different waifu alternate art cards as well. Like it has the God, what's the girl from Astral Radiance? How am I forgetting her name? Help me with it. She's is it Irida? Irida, right? Elsa's Sparks. It's got the trio of the dogs, right? It's got the Suicune, Entei, Raikou. It's
True.
got the really cool Pikachu card. If you're a fan of Gen 8, it's got Zacian Zamazenta, right? It's got the really cool Gloria's Vigor card. It's got the Corliss's Experiment. It's got so many cool cards. Not to mention character rares. I mean, the Mew in the forest, such a sick card. Such a sick card. And the concept of taking all of the forest cards and putting them together to make one sick art design, also a really cool concept. So like, man, there's so much about that set that makes it feel like it's so hard to miss. Like it is a ridiculously fun set to open because even if you don't hit like the Giratina or like one of the more expensive cards, you're still going to get a ton of really cool cards that you're pulling along the way.
Dude, I'm telling you, every single box break I have, it's the most open set. I mean, last week again, I went through another whole case on stream.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
I believe it, man. I mean, I believe it. I mean, the characters, dude, you want to talk about something that's really slept on? I think a lot of the character rares are really slept on it. And I'm talking
the yellow borders.
Like yellow borders. Like, have you seen like the Deoxys card or like the Keldeo or like the Latios? Like, dude, some of these borderless cards are incredible.
So
I love the Deoxys art design. I think it's so cool.
On my stream last night with Steve, he was talking about that Latias, I guess, is a player right now. Like apparently the graded card's going for pretty good money and it's like a $2-3 card still.
The Latios, not the Latios.
Oh, I forget, dang it.
I mean, the Latios looks sick. It does.
One of those two.
I can look up and see what the Latias is going for in terms of its PSA graded. It's going for $60, and you can buy it raw on TCG Player for $275.
Yeah,
it's a play. It's a play for sure.
What do you think about? I know we talked about this before though, and we both kind of agreed with. But you small fish thinks that SV base is a huge, and even MD Sports Cards had 99% chance in his opinion that SV base will get a reprint. I don't think it's that likely.
I think there's a 10 to 15% chance it gets reprinted.
Because it had a reprint, correct?
Already did. Yep. And it was a big one. It was attached to the Scarlet or the Silver Tempest Lost Origin reprint. So at least with my distributor, our main one, if you wanted to pick up a case, so how they did it was, and I obviously broke it down because not everyone can afford a case. But how I did it was you could buy it as one case of LO, one case of ST, and then half a case of SV base. So for every one case of LO and ST that was reprinted, they did half a case of Scarlet Violet. So it's like, that's a lot considering how much we saw the price of LO and ST go down. So that's a lot, man. And the price, I mean, we saw the price go down to the low 80s. I mean, I was seeing it sit on distros for the longest time at $80. I think right now it's selling for 86 on most distros still. 88. Like, it's still in the 80s. Like, this is a set that tanked because of how much there was, right?
Game pieces.
Dude,
I think I get what Rudy says. Like, people just like, they think this stuff should be worthless. Like, guys, if a box is going for 80 or less, that is not a good thing. Like, that's a negative thing for the hobby. It's too cheap, right? If a box is going for 150 out of the gate, that's a bad thing too. I agree. Like, there's a happy medium, but I mean, boxes going that cheap, I mean, you don't want them to get reprinted and drop down in the 70s. Like, that's not good.
Yeah, my rep just messaged me because I was telling you about like the big bundle they're doing with the LO and Brilliant. It's a limit of 1, so it's small. It's very tiny. Like, if there is any LO product that's being put on the market with Brilliant, it'll make the price drop probably 20%, I want to say, but we're not going to see like a 50 to 60% crash on like LO. Like, LO is probably still going to hang around the low 200s or like maybe 190-ish. Like, it'll move the price, but I wouldn't keep your hopes up. I would see it actually as an opportunity to pick up more LO or Brilliant if I were you on the market. So, but Yeah, and the bundle is like filthy. It's not one of these bundles that you can just break up and be like, all right, so if you buy, one battle stadium, you get one booster box. It's like you have 8 different items they're making you pick up to get this bundle.
Yeah.
So and it's very small amount. So, but yeah, I
feel like
think
most people already got their positions when Pokemon Center was selling out. Like, I mean, those were on there for a long time. I feel like anyone that wanted to get into LO got in at that point, in my
it was
opinion.
a while. It felt like a while at least, right?
Yeah.
It felt like a while because I was talking about it for so long. I remember when I first got news of the reprint, I made an announcement in the chat and said, like, full exclamation points, people in the program, this is your chance. This is the freest of tendies you're ever going to get. Dump all your money in this. If you don't, you're dumb. I like literally said that in like the wholesale program chat. And we ended up spending off of just LO and ST like $250,000 as a program just off of that product. And you know me, I picked up 14 cases of LO. Like I was like, this is the freest of tendies ever. It's not going to get better than this. And I mean, look at where we are, right? Like, look at where we are now. So it's, I don't know. You take those plays. They're right in front of you. They're in your face. You take those plays. So, and I learned my lesson from evolving, and that's what I saw Lost Origin Silver Tempest as. That's why I knew it was going to pop. Alfred says, I got 12 cases of LO and ST because Eli said I was stupid if I didn't.
I'm looking at the comment right above his.
Okay, let's have this be the last question if it's one mentioning, and then I gotta go because we're almost at 2 hours.
No, you're good. You're good.
I gotta go reinforce my.
It's one of those that makes me like shake my head once again.
On Poke Guardian, it states Nintendo and Game Freak issued a trademark for Glory of Team Rocket and Terrestrial Festival, which will likely be a high-class set of 2024. Excited?
We're past like, what are we? Are we 3-4 sets like looking forward? This is
Frick the Dragon set. We already moved past that. We don't even know what's in it, but who cares?
I can't.
We're talking Team Rocket. Hey, I will say though, and this I'll just mention this, and then we can kind of finish here. I have been saying forever that it'd be really cool if they did some sort of rocket / like gym set. It's been a while since they've.
I'm with you there. It's just, I mean, gosh, we're just getting so far ahead of ourselves at this point.
Yeah, Diamond and Pearl era was the last era to have something like that, where they had Rising Rivals, and all of the Platinum era they had it, where you could have characters that had like the picture or icon of the trainer in the bottom saying like, it was like Cynthia's Rayquaza, level X, right? Or like Cyrus's Dialga, like that whole thing.
I just feel like this is like the equivalent of like you're going to Japan this year. It'd be the equivalent of being like, yeah, but like next year we're hitting like France, but then the year after that we're gonna hit Australia. Like, so 2026, that is gonna be a crazy vacation. Like, dude, enjoy your Japan trip. Just enjoy it.
Right. When is Shrouded? When's the release date for Shrouded again?
I don't even know, man. That's your field.
That's fair enough. I can literally pull it up right now and see. So Shrouded's release date is on. It is on the 8th. Or sorry, the 2nd. It's on the 2nd of April. Or holy crap, 2nd of August. Jeez Louise, man. So 2nd of August. Which is perfect. Because I leave on the 19th. So thank the Lord Almighty. They better not have some random thing where they come out with another set within the same month. I will be so angry otherwise. But that should work out perfectly for me. So, what do I think about what?
Huh? Oh, no. It's just like, it's already, that's 2 months away. Like 2 months is a long time.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting closer and closer with Pokemon. It used to be Pokemon sets would come out every 3 to 4 months, and now it's every 2 to 3 months. But SV7 is coming out September and 1 month after Shrouded. Yeah, SV7 is probably going to come out end of September, though. It would be weird if they did like first week of September. That would make zero sense. Like a month to month back, I don't see them doing that. I could be wrong.
When can I put orders in for SV12? Is that coming up?
Yeah, so I'm taking pre-orders for the newest generation. So if you want to put in your orders for the Legends Arceus sets, the Legends Z set, You can put in orders now. I don't know if you guys actually know this, but I know this because I have all the insider information. They actually increased the price of wholesale and MSRP by $50 a box. So you're going to have to pay $150. It's a good deal. I got my distros to bring down the price for us. So if you want to start putting in those numbers now, it's a yeah, just like
perfect. Yeah, I just put my pre-order in for PS7 too. So like I'm already ready for that like in 2030. So we're good.
Yeah. Already.
Yes, Small Fish is on board. He's hyped for 2030 set. Same here, dude. Same here.
Let's go, baby. Give me that 2030 set.
Let's call it there, man.
Yeah, let's call it, guys. We're done. It's been 2 hours. All right, everyone. Have a good rest of your Tuesday. Peace.